To Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. जय गोपी जना वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी यशोदा नंदन ब्रज जन रंजना यशोदा नंदन ब्रज जन रंजना यशोदा नंदन ब्रज जन रंजना यमुना तीरा वनचारी यमुना तीरा वनचारी हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jai Om Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parivrajakaacharya Ashtotara Sata Shri Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita Ki Jai Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Nitai Gaur Pramanande Hari Hari Bo. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories, all glories, all glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Please repeat. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jai Shri Radha Kalachan Ji ki Jai. We are continuing our reading from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. This is Madhya Leela chapter 8 titled Talks Between the Lord and Ramanand Rai. I think we did till text 213 the last time. We'll continue from text 214. We'll do the Manga. This is chapter 8. Madhya Leela, chapter 8, text 214. We'll do the Mangalacharan and then get this going. ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरोन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरोन् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणरघुनाथान्वितां तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च हे कृष्णा करुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिकान्त राधाकान्त नमोऽस्तु ते तप्तकाञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे. So this section that we've been reading initially started with a description of Srimati Radharani, and then the previous few verses are talking about the gopis, the friends of Srimati Radharani, and how exalted they are. And then the context here is that nobody wants to serve Krishna directly. That's basically what Ramanandra has been saying. So the gopis are thinking we should serve Srimati Radharani, and in that they derive 100 million times more pleasure, 10 million times more pleasure than when they would directly serve Krishna. So the gopis are trying to serve Srimati Radharani in her service to Krishna. And yet Srimati Radharani is not thinking, oh, let me do all the service to Krishna. What she is thinking is, let me serve the gopis in their service to Krishna. And in that way, Srimati Radharani is experiencing 10 million times more happiness than what she would experience when she is directly with Krishna. This is the context of what we've been reading in this section. So these few verses are concluding on this particular topic. So this is text 214. Anyonye vishuddha preme kare rasa pushta tasa bhara prema dheki Krishna haya tushta. Would you like to repeat? Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. This is the word for word. Anyonye, by one another. Vishuddha, transcendental. Preme, in love of Godhead. Kare, makes. Rasa, the mellow. Pushta, nourished. Tasabhara, of all of them. Prema, the love of Godhead. Deki, seeing. Krishna, Lord Krishna. Haya, becomes. Tushta, satisfied. Translation. The transcendental mellow is nourished by the mutual behavior in transcendental love of Godhead. When Lord Krishna sees how the gopis have developed pure love for him, he becomes very satisfied. Purport. Srimati Radharani and the gopis are not interested in their personal happiness derived from association with Krishna. Rather, they become happy by seeing one another associate with Krishna. In this way, their dealings are further nourished by love of Godhead. And seeing this, Krishna is very pleased. So, this entire section, if it was just read out of context, it would mean that, or it would at least seem that this was a very mundane relationship that Krishna and the gopis were having, just like the relationship between boys and girls of this world. So this section, Ramananda Rai is emphasizing on how this is actually not something that's mundane at all, by any stretch of imagination. Because Prabhupada explains that, we've read this in the previous sections also, that the gopis, when they were with Krishna, were least interested in their happiness. In fact, they didn't care about their happiness at all. Their only thought was, how can I make Krishna happy? How can I give pleasure to Krishna? And this was their only motivation in that service to Krishna. And this is explained by Krishna Kaviraj Goswami of the difference between kama and prema. And in this verse, the word that's used is what? Prema, right? So kama, Krishna Kaviraj Goswami says, is things that are done for our own self-interest. If we are doing certain activities towards satisfying ourselves, then that is called kama or lust. Whereas you see the activities of the gopis, every single activity that was performed by the gopis comes under the category of prema. And the definition that Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami gives for prema is any activity that is done completely for the satisfaction of Krishna. Then this activity is called prema. And we can see here that Krishna is satisfied by this. Krishna is not actually satisfied by lust, things that we try to do for ourselves, because he knows that's actually going to. It's not because Krishna is a sadistic Lord and doesn't want us to enjoy. It's not that, when we perform something, Krishna is so unhappy. He's not doing anything for me. He's just doing things for himself. Therefore, I'm sad. It's not from that perspective that Krishna is saying, Jai Shri Shri Radha Kalachandji ki Jai. It is not from that perspective. It is from the perspective that if we try to do anything for our own satisfaction, what happens as a result of such activity? Does anybody know? Yeah, happiness in the beginning and pain later on. And Krishna says it's sweet in the beginning and poison. It turns into poison in the end. And also Krishna gives this entire cycle in the Gita, right? Of when we try to do something for our own satisfaction. He says, Dhyayato Vishyan Pumsa Sangasteshu Pajayate Sangat Sanjayate Kama Kama Krodo Bijayate Krodat Bhavati Sammoha Sammohat Smriti Vibrama Smriti Bhrimshat Buddhi Nasho Buddhi Nashat Pranashyati. This is the entire cycle that Krishna is giving. That when we start contemplating our senses on the object of the senses, it turns into attachment. And we keep contemplating on the object of the senses, then this attachment turns into lust. And when it turns into lust, it invariably turns into frustration and anger, Krishna says. This is the nature of things in this world. So Krishna is not very happy in that sense. But Krishna is very happy when a certain type of behavior is seen among the devotees. The exact behavior that was exemplified by the gopis of Vrindavan. So what they were trying to do is that they were trying to nourish each other. The gopis are trying to somehow make Srimati Radharani happy. And in turn, Srimati Radharani is trying to make the gopis happy. And it was completely selfless in what they were trying to do. They were not thinking, let me be with Krishna. Let me do this service. At the same time, Radharani was not thinking, let me try to be with Krishna. The gopis are anyway pushing me to the front. Let me try to have my time with Krishna. This is not what their mood was. The entire mood of Vrindavan was, how can we help each other, push each other towards Krishna, not push ourselves towards Krishna. And when seeing this, Krishna becomes very happy. Krishna says this in the Gita also. Do you remember which verse this is? This is famous verse of what the devotees do when they come together. Yeah. Madchitta madgata prana bodhayanta parasparam. Katayantasya mam nityam tushyanti cha ramanti cha. This is what the devotees do. when the devotees come together, and especially Krishna is talking about a very specific kind of devotees. Madchitta, Madghata, Prana. These devotees are constantly thinking about Krishna. Madchitta, Madghata, Prana. For them, their life and soul is just Krishna, nobody else. When such devotees come together, they're not thinking, how can I be with Krishna? What are they trying to do? They're trying to uplift one another by speaking about Krishna. Bodhayanta parasparam. When they try to do this, they derive incredible happiness. How do they derive incredible happiness? Is said by Prabhupada in this purport. Is that when Krishna sees this happening, Krishna becomes very pleased. And when Krishna is pleased, naturally all of us are pleased. It is from that perspective that all of us become very, very pleased. And in fact, Krishna is so bewildered by this that he cannot understand what's happening. Right? Krishna is looking at Srimati Radharani and thinking, she's not doing anything for herself. Everything that she's doing is so that she can give me so much pleasure. I'm feeling some amount of happiness, true. But what the happiness that Radharani is feeling is completely incomprehensible to Krishna. He just doesn't understand it. It's just so much times more than the happiness that Krishna himself feels through accepting that service. Therefore, Krishna has to come of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to experience this. Right? Krishna himself is completely bewildered by this kind of love that the gopis have for Krishna. And therefore, in order to experience that, Krishna comes as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, comes in the mood of Srimati Radharani. This is Krishna himself, who comes in the mood of Srimati Radharani to experience this mood of being the servant of the Lord. And the happiness that is derived by the servants of the Lord, which is much, much more than the happiness that is derived by the Lord himself, which is kind of incomprehensible. So this is the gopis. They're not ordinary people, mundane young girls that we see in the movies running around trees with boys. This is not their mood at all. Their only desire in life is, how can I satisfy Krishna? So this Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami will explain further on why this is the case. Can we move to the next verse? Sahaja gopira prema nahe prakrita kama kama krida samyetara kahi kama nama. It is to be noted that the natural characteristic to the gopis is to love the Supreme Lord. Their lusty desire is not to be compared to material lust. Nonetheless, because their desire sometimes appears to resemble material lust, their transcendental love for Krishna is sometimes described as lust. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur says that material lust should never be attributed to Krishna, who is full of transcendental knowledge. Material lust cannot be engaged in the service of the Lord, for it is applicable to materialists, not to Krishna. Only prema, or love of Godhead, is applicable for the satisfaction of Krishna. Prema is full service rendered unto the Lord. The lusty affairs of the gopis actually constitute the topmost love of Godhead, because the gopis never act for their own personal satisfaction. They are simply pleased by engaging other gopis in the service of the Lord. The gopis derive more transcendental pleasure from indirectly engaging other gopis in the service of Krishna than from engaging in his service themselves. That is the difference between material lust and love of Godhead. Lust applies to the material world, and love of Godhead applies only to Krishna. So when we look at it from the outside, the conjugal relationship that the gopis have with Krishna is sometimes categorized as lusty relationship. And this is described as such just to give us some perspective of what this can be, because we can never understand what kind of a relationship that this is between Krishna and the gopis in the conjugal mellow. Just to give us some idea of what this relationship is, sometimes it is described as the lusty relationship that they have between the gopis and Krishna. But in effect, like we discussed, it has nothing to do with lust, because everything that the gopis are doing is so that they can please Krishna. In fact, it is the exact opposite of lust that Prabhupada is quoting Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati. That if it is lust, we definitely want it. This is the point of lust, right? When we discuss this verse, dhyayato vishyan pumsa. You know how this cycle starts? So, for example, you go on the 75, you go on the 75 north, and you see a huge billboard of the iPhone. You've seen this? You have a huge billboard of the iPhone. So you keep going on 75, you keep going on 75, and you keep seeing it, right? Your senses are trying to contemplate on the object of the senses, and then this desire comes about. Oh, I want a new iPhone. So then this desire has come up. And then you keep going and you keep contemplating on it. Oh, I need the iPhone. It would be nice if I have the iPhone. You start looking up about the iPhone. And then this desire starts turning into attachment. Oh, it would be so nice if I have the iPhone. My phone might be nice, but then the phone that we currently have might be nice, but then we've started developing this attachment towards the iPhone. And then when we keep contemplating on this more and more and more, this attachment turns into lust. Lust means at this point, I definitely have to have it. I cannot live without it. That's the point where it comes to lust. So at this point, we're thinking, my life is useless without the iPhone. I definitely have to have the iPhone. I'll do something or the other to get the iPhone. I might not have the money, I might borrow, I might look at credit cards. It might not be necessary at all, but I will somehow try to get the iPhone. And this is lust. And this iPhone that I'm getting is not so that it can be pleasing to somebody else. The iPhone that I'm getting is so that it can be pleasing to me. This is lust. Everything that I do from this position is so that it can make me happy, because we have convinced our mind that getting this is the epitome of my happiness. Without this, I can just never be. I can never live. And this is lust. Whereas you look at the gopis, is the exact opposite. They never mind that they want to give pleasure to Krishna, which is the default case, because the natural characteristic of the gopis is to love the Supreme Lord, right? This is their sthai bhav. Their natural characteristic is that everything that they do is so that Krishna can be happy. But they go a step further and say, I want to make Krishna happy, but I don't want to do it directly. I want somebody else to do it, and I will assist them in their service, in their service to Krishna. So this is the exact opposite characteristic of lust. You see, when we are looking at this example of iPhone, the iPhone that we are getting, we are so attached to, is so that it can make us happy. It is not so that we can somehow or the other get this iPhone and give it to others so that it can be somebody else can be happy. And it can be even our own wives or kids. At the point of lust, I want to make myself happy. That is our situation. But this is the exact opposite that we see in the gopis, is that the natural characteristic is to love Krishna. But they don't even want to do it directly. And they're pushing each other. The gopis are thinking, oh, let Radharani go and serve Krishna. Whereas Radharani is thinking, oh, let the gopis go and serve Krishna. And this is the characteristic. So therefore, although they are characterized as lust, for us to understand, they are nowhere close to that particular description of that word. Because everything that they're doing is for the pleasure of Krishna. And one more verse we'll do. Actually, a couple of verses to see why this is the case. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami gives more evidences of why this is the case. Premaiva goparamāṇāṃ kāma ityagamat prathām ityuddhavādhayopyetam vanchanti bhagavat priya. The dealings of the gopis with Krishna are on the platform of pure love of Godhead. However, they are sometimes considered to be lusty. But because such dealings are completely spiritual, all the dearmost devotees of the Lord, like Uddhava and others, also desire to participate in them. So if it was so abominable and lusty in terms of our material understanding, then great exalted devotees like Uddhava wouldn't want to actually desire to participate in such activities. So, you know, how many of you know who Uddhava is? All of us know. So Uddhava was the cousin of Krishna, and he looked or resembled just like Krishna. He got Sarupya Mukti, in the sense that when we get liberation, there are several kinds of liberation that we can get, and one of the kinds of liberation is that we can look just like Krishna. with a few features, not that we might not have the Kaustuba, we might not have the Srivatsa, like that, but we will look just like Krishna. And Uddhava was one such devotee who was so exalted that he was looking just like Krishna. People would find it very hard to differentiate between Uddhava and Krishna. And Uddhava was a disciple of Brihaspati. Do you know who Brihaspati is? The guru of? Yeah, he was the guru, the spiritual master of all the demigods. He was a very exalted personality. And Uddhava was his disciple. So he knew the philosophy left, right, and center, front and back, like that. So Uddhava was expert in philosophy, and he was a very intelligent person also. If you read the Krishna book, I think during the Shamantaka Jwal and in other instances, Krishna personally asks for Uddhava's advice on what he should do. That's how intelligent Uddhava was. So Krishna was there with the gopis and the Vrajavasis in Vrindavan, and then a personality who had the characteristic of the exact opposite of his name came to Vrindavan. You know who this personality was? The actions that he did was the exact opposite of what his name meant. Yeah, Akrura. Akrura, the name Akrura means one who is never cruel. But he did something that was so cruel. What did he do? He came and took Krishna away from Vrindavan. So Kamsa had asked Akrura to bring Krishna, to kill him, actually. So Akrura had come to Vrindavan and had taken Krishna. And when Krishna was about to leave Vrindavan, the senior Gopas and the Gopis were thinking, oh, this is just... Actually, how Kamsa had asked the Vrajavasis to come was that there was a big wrestling match that he had arranged. And through the wrestling match, he was going to kill Krishna. There were other things that he had set up to make it a fail-proof system to kill Krishna. But then the way he had asked Akrura to invite the Vrajavasis was that we're having a big wrestling tournament, so why don't you come and see it? Witness the wrestling tournament. So that way, the Gopas and the Gopis, the elder Gopas and the Gopis of Vrindavan were thinking, oh, this is just something, we'll go. The king has invited us, and then we're going to come back anyway. But then the Gopis did not believe it. When the Gopis knew that Krishna was leaving Vrindavan, they were so upset that Krishna was leaving Vrindavan. And they were even thinking, what are these elder Gopas and Gopis thinking? Krishna is going from Vrindavan to Mathura. And Vrindavan, as we all know, is a very calm and quiet village. It has no opulence. Everything was very simple in Vrindavan. And whereas Mathura is the place where the king lives. It is the city with great opulence. And when Krishna goes there, how will he remember us? He'll be so much satisfied with the opulence of Mathura. He will see all these big, educated people there, educated girls in Vrindavan who are very cultured. So Krishna will not want to associate with us. Once Krishna goes to Mathura, he will never come back. And therefore the gopis were trying to stop Krishna. But then Krishna pacified them and said, I will come back. You don't worry. I'm just going to go there, finish some business, and I'm going to come back. And then Krishna left. But then Krishna never came back. Months had passed. And Krishna never came back to Vrindavan. And then the gopis and the Vrajavasis in Vrindavan were burning in the fire of separation from Krishna. They just couldn't take it. Their life and soul was actually taken out of them. This was the state of the gopis, or actually the Vrajavasis. Not just the human beings, but the animals, the trees, the plants, the creepers. Every single living entity in Vrindavan was just completely burning in the fire of separation from Krishna, because their most beloved personality was not there with them anymore. And Krishna was also feeling the same separation when he was in Mathura. Therefore, he sent Uddhava as a messenger to Vrindavan to pacify the Vrajavasis, because Krishna knew that they were almost on the verge of leaving their bodies. They just couldn't take it anymore, the separation from Krishna that they were going through. So Krishna felt this and said, I cannot let them leave their bodies, so I have to do something about it, and called Uddhava, his cousin and his close associate in Mathura. And then he said, I want you to take this message to the Vrajavasis. And then he tries writing a letter. Prabhupada actually describes this in the Krishna book. This message Krishna is trying to write, And then Krishna's hand is shaking. And when thinking about the Vrajavasis and he's trying to write this letter, Krishna's hand is shaking. He's just not able to write this letter. And later, Prabhupada writes in the Krishna book that Uddhava was so intelligent that he just didn't give the letter to the Vrajavasis because they couldn't really understand it. He was intelligent that he could decipher what Krishna was writing with his shaken handwriting and read that message to the gopis. And this was the state of Krishna also. Krishna says in the Gita, Ye yatamam prapadyante tam sataiva bhajamiham. That he reciprocates in the way that which we surrender to Krishna. And the surrender of the gopis was just extraordinary. It was incomparable. So Krishna was also reciprocating in this way. So, but Uddhava, in his conception in Mathura, was thinking about Krishna as the supreme personality of Godhead. This is the person from whom, when he exhales, innumerable universes come out of the pores of his body. When he inhales, they go into his body. He is all-pervading Brahman. This was the conception that Uddhava had of Krishna. Completely in the mood of awe and reverence. This was the conception that Uddhava had. And Krishna also wanted to give Uddhava a taste of something that was more than what he was having. So he gave this message to Uddhava, and then Uddhava went to Vrindavan. And then he goes to the house of Maharaj Nanda and Yashoda. And then they're seeing Uddhava, and then they're seeing, oh, he looks just like Krishna. But then they figure out, oh, this is not Krishna. And then he's saying, I'm the friend of Krishna. Krishna has sent a message to me that he is coming back. You please don't worry so much. He's going to come back. He's going to fulfill his promise. And then, but Maharaj Nanda and Yashoda Maya are asking, does Krishna really remember us? And now that he is with his actual parents, Vasudeva and Devaki, he must be happy, especially in Mathura. He must have the association of such opulent people, such exalted personalities. Does he really remember his parents, Nanda and Yashoda? And then they go into this complete ecstatic mood of remembering everything. They ask this question, but they don't really wait for Uddhava to reply. They go into this ecstatic mood of completely starting to remember everything that Krishna did. The minute they start thinking about Krishna, they've always been thinking about Krishna, but then this thought process comes into their mind. Then they ask, oh, you know what? Krishna used to go on the banks of Yamuna. He just used to roam around there. And there we had this very poisonous serpent called the Kaliya, who was poisoning the waters of Yamuna and killing our cows. And in fact, it was becoming very dangerous for us. But Krishna protected all of us by chastising Kaliya. And one time, when Indra got so angry at us and started pouring showers of rain, where Vrindavan was merging completely in the deluge of that rainfall, Krishna lifted this Govardhan hill and protected all of us. Like that, they were thinking his footprints are still there in Vrindavan. And when we think of these footprints of Krishna, we're constantly remembering him. And this was the mood of the Vrajavasis. So like that, the entire night they passed just discussing about Krishna, his pastimes. This was giving them so much satisfaction. Although Krishna was not personally present, just by remembering Krishna's activities and pastimes, the Vrajavasis were getting pacified a little bit. And in the morning, the morning had passed, and like every day in Vrindavan, after Krishna had left, all the gopis would come to the house of Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda Maya to just check on them, because they were so sad that Krishna had left. But the gopis and the Vrajavasis wanted to just make sure they were doing okay. And you see, this is the same mood exhibited that we are describing here also. They just didn't think, oh, I am sad, they are sad, let me just be. Even though they were sad, they were extremely sad, they were still going and checking in on Maharaj Nanda and Yashoda. And then when they went in like that, as usual, the next morning they saw Uddhava. And then they took him to a secluded place because they wanted to know more about Krishna. They couldn't ask about all that they had in front of all the elders. So they took Uddhava separately. And then seeing the gopis, especially Srimati Radharani, this is the Brahmar Gita, right? When the bumblebee comes, Radharani thinks this is Krishna himself and starts chastising the bumblebee. Oh, you are an ungrateful servant of an ungrateful master. You are not loyal. You go from flower to flower, you take some honey, and then once your job is done, you move away. Like this, Srimati Radharani goes into this ecstatic mellow of Mahabhav. This is the ecstatic mood of Srimati Radharani and all the other gopis. The Bhagavatam describes this. And then seeing this, Uddhava is telling them, oh, Krishna is all pervasive. You don't worry. He is always there in your heart as the super soul. Although Krishna is not there in Vrindavan, he is still there with you. They just don't want to take it. They are not interested in any of this. In fact, this is the incredible nature of the Vrajavasis. We go through the 9 cantos. This is why Prabhupada said we have to first go through the first 9 cantos of the Srimad Bhagavatam before we get to the 10th canto, to actually know how exalted the love of the Vrajavasis to Krishna was. So till the 9th canto, we've gone through incredible devotees, right? We've seen Prahlad Maharaj, we've seen Dhruva Maharaj, Prithu Maharaj, Rishabdev, who else? Bali Maharaj, Ambarish Maharaj. We've seen just exalted devotees of the Lord who had incredible love for the Lord, right? But then, 2 instances actually happen in the 10th canto, where the first time, Mother Yashoda is feeding Krishna, the little baby, and then suddenly there is a teeth that's coming out. When the babies grow, you start seeing little teeth, and the parents want to see how many teeth are there. They want to count. Like that, Mother Yashoda is opening the mouth of Krishna and just seeing these teeth. But then Krishna, just to show who he was, starts showing her the universal form in the mouth of Krishna. Just this entire universe is present within the mouth of Krishna. But then Mother Yashoda is bewildered. This is my boy, but what am I seeing? But she snaps out of it. That she just doesn't consider it the first time. So Krishna, years later, has this pastime where he starts eating dirt, right? And then the boys go to Mother Yashoda and complain, Maya, he's not eating proper food. Krishna is actually eating dirt. And then Krishna is saying, no, these boys are lying. Even Balram is lying. But Mother Yashoda says, okay, if everybody is lying, why don't you show your mouth? Let me see it for myself, whether you have dirt in your mouth or not. And then Krishna opens his mouth. And then again, for the second time, Krishna shows this universal form, this time even more detailed. Mother Yashoda can actually see herself seeing Krishna within Krishna's mouth. He sees the entire universe. And yet, she faints and falls. And then the next thing that she thinks is, oh, this is still my child, Krishna. He's not the supreme person. He's still my child, Krishna. He's still my 5-year-old boy. This is Mother Yashoda's conception. And at this point, who is listening to this story? In the Bhagavatam? No, Parikshit Maharaj. Right? Parikshit Maharaj is listening to Shukdev Goswami describe all of this, and he has a question. Because he has listened to the first 9 cantos, and something is different about this from what he had heard about in the previous 9 cantos. He's saying, what kind of love is this? I've seen some incredible devotees that you've described in the previous 9 cantos whose love for Krishna was just extraordinary. But here, Krishna is showing her twice that he is the supreme person, and yet she completely discards that opinion of Krishna. For her, it's her 5-year-old boy. For her, it is my little boy. I don't care about the opulence of Krishna. He might be the supreme personality of Godhead, whatever. For me, he's still my little boy. And from this point, to describe what kind of affection that Mother Yashoda has, Shukdev Goswami describes which story, The Damodar Leela. The love that Mother Yashoda had for Krishna. This is something that's extraordinary. And this is how the Damodar Leela actually starts from this question. Like, what happened? What is this love? And then he says, like all good stories start, how does it start? Once upon a time. This is how the Damodar Leela starts also. So he goes and says, this is how happened. This is how much the Vrajavasis love Krishna, that the opulence goes completely out of the window. Their love for Krishna completely supersedes the opulent aspect, the Aishwarya aspect of Krishna. So like that, Uddhava is seeing this. Uddhava is in this mood of complete awe and reverence towards Krishna. And then he is seeing the gopis go completely mad in separation from Krishna. And at that point, Uddhava has this desire. And this desire that Uddhava has is what, Prabhupada doesn't really describe this. He just says, like Uddhava and others also desire to participate in them. What was Uddhava's desire, He didn't want to become a gopi. He didn't even want to become the servant of the gopi. He wanted to become the grass and the creeper in Vrindavan. Because actually, Prabhupada describes in the Krishna book, he wanted to take the dust of the gopis and put it on his head. After looking at the gopis and looking at how they were remembering Krishna and were in complete ecstasy just by remembering Krishna. But then he thought that the gopis would not like it if he would ask for their dust, because they didn't think of themselves as somebody who was so exalted. They would not want to give the dust. So therefore, Uddhava wanted to be the creeper and the grass in Vrindavan, so that when Krishna plays the flute, the gopis would drop everything and run towards Krishna. And when they were running to Vrindavan, they would step on the grass and the creepers of Vrindavan. And when they were stepping on the grass and creepers of Vrindavan, and if he was one of the grass and creepers of Vrindavan, he would get the dust of the lotus feet of the gopis when they were running towards Krishna. This was Uddhava's desire. And if anything that the gopis were doing were remotely close to even the material lust that we consider, why would Uddhava want to be the grass and the creeper that would want to take the dust of the lotus feet of the gopis of Vrindavan? So the relationship that the gopis had with Krishna was nothing comparable to material lust. So this verse that we read is from the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Prabhupada describes this in the Nectar of Devotion also. In the 15th chapter, this is actually the 15th chapter of the Nectar of Devotion. This is the second wave, right? The Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu is an ocean. This ocean has multiple waves. And this has several directions in the Nectar of Devotion. So it starts with the eastern direction, goes to the southern direction, western direction, and northern direction. And Rupa Goswami gives the complete science of devotional service for us to practice in the Nectar of Devotion. So this is, Prabhupada says in his purport, this is a quotation from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1, 2, 285. Now 1 means it's the eastern ocean. 2 means it's the second wave. You know what the second wave is? What does the eastern ocean talk about in the Nectar of Devotion? It actually describes about devotional service in general. It gives us a summary of devotional service in general. And then the first wave talks about a general description of devotional service. And the second wave describes sadhana bhakti. Sadhana bhakti means devotional service in practice. Initially, when we start practicing devotional service, or many of us in this material world, we don't have spontaneous love for Krishna. We just cannot do things spontaneously for Krishna. Because our general characteristic is, how can I satisfy myself? So there is no spontaneity in trying to satisfy Krishna. Everything that we do is we try to satisfy ourselves. So the second wave describes how we can practice devotional service in a regulated way, so that we can come to this point of spontaneity. And especially this later section of sadhana bhakti speaks about raghanuga sadhana bhakti. So it is divided into Vaidhi sadhana bhakti and raghanuga sadhana bhakti. Vaidhi means we are given these rules and regulations by which, with a framework for us to practice devotional service in a conducive manner. And once we start practicing devotional service in such conducive environment, we start developing spontaneity. This natural inclination to serve Krishna comes about. And at that point, it is called raghanuga sadhana bhakti. That this attachment to Krishna is there, this raga is there. But it is still sadhana because we have not perfected it. So we try to follow in the footsteps of somebody who's actually perfected that service to Krishna in that mellow. Such devotees who have perfected their service to Krishna in that mellow are called ragatmika bhaktas. So the topmost of the ragatmika bhaktas are the gopis of Vrindavan. Especially this conjugal love is considered the topmost of all rasas. So Rupa Goswami categorizes ragatmika devotees as sambandhatmika and kamatmika. The kamatmika devotees are the devotees of the Lord who have perfected their service in conjugal mellow to the Lord. And the topmost of the kamatmika devotees are the gopis of Vrindavan. So there, Prabhupada mentions in the Nectar of Devotion, chapter 15, when he is describing this section, he describes Uddhava, this particular thing that Rupa Goswami describes. And he also adds another example of how, if the relationship between the gopis and Krishna was anywhere close to material lust, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu actually wanted to follow these gopis. And if we look at the life of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, especially in his sannyas ashram, he was the strictest, I don't know if that's the most strict sannyasi you could ever find. Yeah? He would never associate with women. In fact, he would even never associate with uh, King Prataparudra, who was associating with women and money. Not even direct. Even somebody, he would not even indirectly associate with women and money by associating with somebody who was directly associating with women and money. So this was the king. The king was dealing with money and he had uh, access to women like that. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu didn't even uh, give his association to King Prataparudra. But yet, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to be Gopi Bhartur Padakamalayur Dasa Dasanu Dasa. This was his mentality. Ramya Kachit Upasana Vrajavadu Vargenaya Kalpita. He says, the best kind of worship is the worship that is performed by the gopis of Vrindavan, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said. And to such gopis, he wanted to be the servant of the gopis. So if the gopis had any material tinge, why would Chaitanya Mahaprabhu want to be their servants? It's Prabhupada's rhetoric in the Nectar of Devotion. So these are the gopis. These are such exalted devotees of the Lord. So their only desire is, how can I satisfy Krishna? Nothing else. Apart from that, they have nothing in their minds. So the next few verses, we are out of time. The next few verses also add more evidence as to why the relationship that the gopis had with Krishna were nothing close to the material lust or mundane lust that we think about. But we'll do that next week. So we'll stop here. And if there are any questions or comments, yes, Ajita Prabhu, can you get the mic? It should be inside, next to the laptop.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for the class, Prabhu. I was just wondering if you could speak on, I've heard before that there is competition between gopis. How does that look like? Because I used to think it was like, oh, who could serve Krishna the best, like that kind of competition. But now you're saying that they're not even thinking about how they themselves can serve Krishna. They're thinking about how others can serve Krishna. So is there competition? What does that look like?
Yeah, there is competition, but it is transcendental competition, Prabhupada says. So this competition is there to enhance Krishna's pleasure. This competition is not there between, like how it is in this material world. Right? Hey, I want to do this service. No, I want to do this service. No, I want to do this service because I want to do this service. That's the basis in which competition occurs in this world. But in the spiritual world, the competition is there. I want to do this service. No, I want to do this service. But this competition actually, when Krishna sees this, it gives pleasure to Krishna. And the entire competition is about how can I please Krishna. So if you look at can you pull up the Krishna book? And then you can go to I think when Krishna leaves the Ras Leela. 31, something like that. Okay, wait, too far. Songs by the gopis. Can you do 31? And can you search for test? Oh, it's not this chapter. Probably the previous one. But anyway, if you don't get it. So when Krishna leaves the Ras Leela, and then the gopis are going after Krishna, and then they see there is actually a footprint of another gopi that Krishna has gone with. Yeah, can you scroll up a few? Oh, yeah, go up a little further. Go up a little. Yeah, no, few sentences above. Yeah, above this line. Yeah. Stop. So at this point, the context is that they're going searching after Krishna, and then they found this footprints of another gopi, and then they're thinking, oh, how fortunate this gopi is. Krishna has actually left all of us to go with this gopi. And they were trying to feel, oh, this gopi is so lucky, like that. No, but then Krishna actually leaves Radharani also, because that's a different story. But this is their mentality once they know what's happening, okay? Prabhupada says, all the gopis then went further and further into the forest searching out Krishna. But when they learned that actually Radharani was left alone by Krishna, initially their feeling was, oh, how lucky this gopi is, which is Srimati Radharani, and they were feeling a little transcendental envy, you could say. They became very sorry immediately. This is the test of Krishna consciousness. In the beginning, they were a little envious that Krishna had taken Radharani alone. Can you scroll down? Leaving aside all the other gopis, but as soon as they knew Krishna had also left Radharani and that she was alone lamenting for him, they became more sympathetic to her. If it was this world, we would feel even more happy. Oh, Krishna left me. Oh, Krishna left that person also. Because that was my mentality, na? Oh, he took that person separately. Oh, now this person is also left. So now we are all happy together. But then, this is the transcendental nature of the Vrajavasis, is that immediately, it's not actually competition in that sense. They're doing everything so that they can give pleasure to Krishna. In that way, they're trying to compete against one another on how can I give more pleasure to Krishna, not how can I derive more pleasure. Yeah?
Still feels like about me, whereas you were saying it's not about me. I don't know, because competition is just like involves, okay, me winning or whatever, but I'm still a little bit confused, like, because you were saying that they don't think about how they can serve Krishna.
Yeah,
So.
can you give this to Jai Gaurang Prabhu?
Hare Krishna. I heard Radhanath Swami say, when the cowherd boys are chasing, competing to saying, I'll be the first one to touch Krishna. So they're thinking, I'm going to run as fast as I can to inspire others to run faster. So that's the competitive angle, or that we're going to do it as much as we can to please Krishna, to inspire other devotees to do more, to please Krishna more in their service. So that's the different angle of consciousness, I think.
Yeah, thank you, Jai Gaurang Prabhu. Yeah, the entire competition there is to somehow push each other to serve Krishna better. That's the competition. The competition here in this world is we're competing against somebody so that we can become better than the other person, right? That conception is not there at all. The competition is there so that we can serve Krishna better. Correct. Thank you. Yes, Gokulananda Prabhu. Can you pass the mic, please?
This is not in the context of Ajit Prabhu said, just because you mentioned about Uddhava, aspiring to be Gulmalata, the creeper in Raj. So I was thinking, what greatness it needs, to be able to think or to take that position, such a lowest position. Because we see when our spiritual master is around, we see there are some prominent disciples who are always around, and because we are materially conditioned, that me and mine concept comes. I want to be in the highlight, I want to be in the forefront, right? I want the recognition, right? So those things, they creep in. Yeah. But then I was thinking, we can have a glimpse of what Uddhava thinks, or, his mindset. So like all of us, when we were maybe in our younger age, like 5 or 6, we used to play games, and there used to be older boys or girls, and we always derived pleasure in assisting them.
Yes.
Right? So that innocence, where you don't want to be in forefront, you don't want to be the key person in the game. You just want to play your role and simply assist the older boys or girls, right? So it's the same mindset or attitude that prevails in the spiritual world.
Yeah.
There is not even a tinge of this material, attitude or conditioning that we have, me and mine, to be in the forefront. So
yeah.
Then probably we can appreciate the greatness of these great souls. Being situated at that greatest level, still, aspiring. It's so natural. So natural, right? It's
Yeah.
amazing. It's amazing. We can't even think about it because there is so much deep-rooted material conditioning to be in the forefront or limelight, right?
Yeah, thank you. That was such a nice point. And I was thinking the opposite is also true, right? With all of us are trying to serve somebody who is directly serving. And yet, the person who is directly serving is thinking, how can I make the other person serve? The feeling is actually mutual between the person who is serving and the person who is not serving directly. And the Prataparudra thing that we were speaking about is the epitome, right? Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya had direct contact with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He didn't think, oh, Prataparudra, it's fine, Prataparudra. You're associating with me, so therefore you don't really need the association of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But what they were trying to do was going into great lengths to somehow unite Prataparudra with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Right? This mood is actually mutual, like we're reading in this verse, is that the people who are directly serving are thinking, how can I pull the others in? The people who are not directly serving are thinking, how can I serve the people who are directly serving? This is the Vaishnava society. Right? This is what, throughout the pages of Chaitanya Charitamrita we see, like when Mahaprabhu is having his Mahaprakash Leela, everybody is getting their benedictions. Mahaprabhu is so merciful at that point, but yet he is saying, Mukunda, he is not going to get my mercy for 1,000,000 years or something. And everybody are feeling so sad. They're not thinking, oh, I got my benediction. I'm going to be so happy because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu recognized me. Everybody else is thinking, it's not just enough that I get my benediction. Why is Mukunda not getting it? And then they're going out and trying to pacify Mukunda. And then Mukunda is trying to pacify them by saying, oh, don't worry. Mahaprabhu didn't say I'll never get his mercy. I'm going to get it just a little later, but I'm going to get this mercy, right? He is trying to pacify. This is throughout the pages of Chaitanya Charitamrita, we constantly see this. At least when we are reading Srimad Bhagavatam, it might be from a different time and we might think, oh, how is this possible? But this was 500 years back. And Vaishnava society means it is this, right? We're not trying to supersede one another. We're trying to serve each other and trying to uplift each other in our service to our spiritual master and Krishna. And it's the same thing that spiritual master is doing, right? We are trying to serve our spiritual master and assist him or her in her service, in their service. And yet, what the spiritual master is doing is trying to engage his disciples in the service of Krishna. The spiritual master is not saying, oh, the disciple is serving me, let me serve Krishna directly. This is what we sing every day, right? Shri Vigrahara Dhananityanana Shringara Tanmandira Marjanado. That the spiritual master is not saying, oh, you please assist me in this service. No, the spiritual master is saying, you please go and serve, and is training the disciple in the service of Shri Vigraha, and eventually directly Krishna and Radha and Krishna. This is the mood, right? They're higher and lower, but then the mood is both of them are trying to mutually pull each other towards Krishna. Thank you for bringing this point. Any other reflections? Okay, if not, we'll stop here now. Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Vancha kalpatarubhyasya, Kripa sindhubhya eva cha, Patitanam pavanebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo, Namo Namah, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai.